A single bounty could erase a species. In less than 5 centuries, human hands exterminated over 10 animals in ways that redefine brutality, dynamite, steel traps, mass clubbing, slaughter by law. 83% of wild mammals vanished where guns and greed spread. What drives a society to turn living abundance into extinction on an industrial scale? The answer begins with a system built to kill, and 10 lost lives you will never forget. Railroad tracks carved through forests and prairies, tripling in length between 1860 and 1890. Every new mile brought hunters closer to wildlife that had once seemed unreachable. Freight ledgers from the era show a staggering transformation. What once took weeks by wagon now arrived in city markets overnight. Passenger pigeons, bison, and otters became products, stacked in rail cars, priced by the ton. The cost to move a carcass from the kill site to the consumer dropped year after year, slashing prices and opening distant markets. Hunters no longer needed to sell locally, and their kills could feed distant cities or fuel the booming fashion trade in Europe. Technology sharpened the edge. By 1867, dynamite turned a morning's hunt into a massacre. Entire roosts of birds could be brought down in minutes. Shotguns and repeating rifles, once luxuries, became cheap and widespread. Market hunters followed the rails and the telegraph wires. Their ledgers tracked not just animals killed, but money made for every pound of meat, feather, or hide. The logic was simple: profit. As weapons improved and transport costs fell, the old limits vanished. A single hunter with a crate of dynamite or a repeating rifle could outpace entire villages of traditional trappers. The numbers tell the story. In the 1870s, Michigan saw over 100,000 passenger pigeons shipped in a single season, rail cars groaning under the weight. In the Amazon, steamships hauled millions of hides from riverbanks to port warehouses, feeding factories half a world away. This was no longer survival or subsistence. It was industrialized killing, fueled by the promise of quick profit, and made possible by a web of rails, ships, and new weapons. The market hunter became an archetype. Part entrepreneur, part executioner, his success measured in ledgers, not in lives spared. The system rewarded speed and volume, and every innovation made extinction more affordable. State rewards for extermination turned killing into a public duty. Bounty posters plastered courthouse walls promising hard cash for every dead predator or pest. In Tasmania, a single thylacine pelt meant a 1-pound payout, more than a week's wages for a farmhand, and the government paid out over 2,000 bounties between 1888 and 1909. In North America, wolves, panthers, and even eagles had prices on their heads. Hunters lined up with sacks of scalps, receipts stamped and counted. For some, it was steady work. For others, a point of pride. Newspapers celebrated pest eradication as civic progress, and local governments tallied kills like trophies. The drive to collect did not end with bounties. In the late 1800s, museums and private collectors sparked a global race for rare specimens. Auction catalogs listed preserved skins and mounted heads, with prices climbing as populations crashed. A single great auk egg fetched more than a laborer's annual pay. Rival scientists paid handsomely for the last of a kind, fueling a black market where rarity meant prestige. In 1844, the last known pair of great auks was beaten to death for a British museum's display. Their egg, smashed in the struggle, became a symbol of scientific greed, condemned even in the journals of the time as barbarism over science. Plume hunters stalked rookeries for the feather trade, stripping breeding colonies to supply the hat industry. In the 1890s, a pound of egret feathers sold for twice the price of gold. No law stood in their way. Until 1900, there were no federal protections for wildlife in the United States. The Lacey Act, passed that year, came too late for many species already lost. Before that, animals were property, not life. The more you killed, the more you gained, whether by decree of the state or by the demands of fashion and science. The system itself made extinction not just possible, but profitable. Passenger pigeons once darkened the sky in flocks so thick they silenced towns. In the 1860s and 70s, hunters blasted dynamite into nesting trees, shot blindly into the chaos, clubbed the wounded, and suffocated survivors with burning sulfur. On a single day outside Detroit, more than 50,000 birds were packed into train cars, blood running in the dirt. Martha, the last of her kind, died alone in a zoo cage in 1914. Tasmanian tigers, called thylacines, fell to government bounties, one carcass worth a week's pay. Steel traps snapped their legs, poison bait finished the rest, and hunters shot them on sight. No mercy for mothers or pups. By 1936, Benjamin, the last, paced a concrete pen until exposure ended his life. Great auks, trusting and flightless, crowded Iceland's rocky shores. Hunters arrived with clubs, smashing skulls for feathers and eggs. In 1844, the final pair was beaten to death, their last egg crushed underfoot. Steller's sea cows, massive and slow, floated in Bering waters. Harpoons tore into blubber, leaving them to bleed out. Within 27 years of their discovery in 1741, the last was butchered for meat. Caribbean monk seals were clubbed for oil, their colonies wiped out in minutes. Columbus's men killed the first recorded group in 1494. By 1952, the last seal was gone, and extinction was declared in 2008. Quaggas fell to mounted rifle parties on South African plains. The last wild quagga vanished in 1878, and the last captive died in Amsterdam Zoo in 1883. Two lake wallabies, famed for speed, were run down by hunting dogs. Habitat loss from farmland conversion removed their food. By 1939, the final wallaby was gone. Japanese sea lions were clubbed during breeding season. Peak slaughter in 1915 killed 3,200. The last sighting came in 1974. Bubal hartebeest, once roaming North Africa, became targets for trophy hunters. High-powered rifles and mounted expeditions made short work of them. By 1925, the last hartebeest was shot in Algeria. High in Costa Rica's Monteverde cloud forest, the golden toad once glowed like a living jewel against the moss. In the spring of 1987, scientists counted over 1,500 adults clustered in shallow pools, the largest gathering on record. By the next breeding season, only a handful appeared. Then, nothing. In 1989, not a single golden toad emerged. The species vanished in just 2 years. No bodies, no warning, just silence where thousands had gathered. This was not a hunt, not a massacre by gun or club. The killing force was invisible, a perfect storm of human-driven change. As global temperatures climbed, clouds in Monteverde rose higher, drying out the forest below. Amphibians, already stressed by drought, fell victim to chytrid fungus, a deadly pathogen thriving in the new warmer conditions. The fungus, likely spread by global trade and intensified by climate shifts, swept through the forest, wiping out entire species in weeks. The golden toad was the first to disappear, but far from the last. What happened in Monteverde is now repeating around the world. The current extinction rate is at least 1,000 times higher than the natural background rate. driven not by bullets, but by a planet transformed at human hands. Every day, 150 to 200 species are lost, many without ever being named. 1 million species now stand at the brink, threatened by climate change, habitat destruction, and pollution. The golden toad's disappearance was not just a local tragedy, it was a warning. When the atmosphere itself becomes a weapon, no place is safe. The age of mass extinction is no longer history. It is now. 1 million species now stand where these 10 once did, on the edge. Every extinction erases part of our future, not just our past. The 6th mass extinction is underway, driven by human hands. What we choose next determines which stories are left for tomorrow. Join the conversation below.